Hi guys, today I'd like to show you how I go about making a bass tone for playing bass on the MOOER GE300 using MOOER Studio for the GE300. So firstly, opening up MOOER Studio, and while we're waiting for that to open, my bass settings, I have all my EQ knobs set to neutral position, and I have the pickup selection at bridge position. So this is for that sort of sound. You can use this method, I suppose, on neck pickup. It'll just sound more round and a bit less mid heavy. So as we wait for this, this is how the sound is before I've actually added anything. Now, I'm not a bass player, but I use my crappy playing skills to play bass in the backings for my tracks when I'm recording. So first thing I would like to go into is the amp section. Now right now I have a high gain amp, which I don't want. I'm looking for the Fender Bassman, which is often used for playing bass. Now it's clipping or it's distorting, so I'll go down to a lower gain. Now I like the EL34s for this particular tone, or that adds a little bit more body. I think I'll stick with the US Deluxe 6L6 tubes. Now I actually didn't know exactly what bias did before, but now I do know. It's running the tubes hot or cooler, and with a real amp you have to do what the recommended settings are for that amp, otherwise you'll blow your tubes much sooner than you would want to. And you have to find the balance between where it sounds good and where you can get the long life out of them. And on the pedal, we don't have such a limitation, so we can use the bias however we want. Here it is at its lowest setting. Here it is at its highest setting. Much thicker. Does not always work, but I quite like it. Check that with the EL34s. Notice that little buzz went away after I went to the EL34s. Has something to do with, I guess, the character of how this tube breaks up. You hear that sound? And if I go back to the EL34s, that's not there. Okay, so I'm going to push the presence, and most people with a bass would like to push the bass on the amp, which I'm actually going to show you why I think that's not a good idea. It doesn't mean it can't work for you, but I don't love the sound of how it works out. So I could scoop the mids, get that really full bass tone without all the nasaliness. But as I go up higher on the neck, I lose that low end punch, and you normally will, but I have a little bit of a strategy to remedy this a bit. So I'll bring my bass down a little bit, which sounds like this. Not very bassy at all. So my next course of action is to look for a nice cab, and I'm just going to go simple, keep it simple, stupid, and go for the US Bass 4x10. And already that sounds thicker. But at the same time, I can sort of hear that it's losing its bottom end as we go up the neck, which I don't like. I'm going to change to this mic because it has a very... it's a bit bit MIDI, but it's punchy. And then I'm going to change the distance to somewhere close. Alright, now moving on, I'm going to chuck in a compressor. It doesn't want to go when I do that. I've got to do that. Put it on the amp. So I'm actually not getting a compressor. I'll go for the blood conch because it's got a sustain thing. And sustain allows the trails of the bass not to pike out too quickly. So if I have it all the way off, that's your sustain level. If I have it all the way on, you can hear that sound lasts quite a bit longer. So I'm going to chuck it at halfway because the more I push a sustain and the more I lose my transients. And I do like to have a little bit of transient. Okay, next section. This is my little trick, or I guess strategy, to improve the bass response up the neck. And it is to do most of my EQ with an actual EQ. And I push it quite hard. And I'm probably going to have to lower the volume so it doesn't clip too far. Let's go a bit more. Let's go back to the amp and chuck a bit more. Actually, get rid of a little bit of that. And our presence is up. I think I'm pretty happy with how that is. Also, I don't know how important this really needs to be, but chuck a low cut in to get rid of the worst low frequencies that we don't actually hear or need. You might not notice it, but it tightens up the sound a little bit. Some people cut to 50 hertz, but for the sake of mixing later, I like to keep more in. So if I'm actually recording this tone, I'd probably leave it off and then add a low cut or a high pass afterwards. So we got, you notice how it's got a bit more high end punch than it did before. You can only go so far with that, but I notice it in the mid strings, like the the A and the D strings hold a lot more punch. Another thing you can do is chuck in some early reflections if you want to have a more of a in the room sound. You can push the amp a little bit so that we get a little bit of breakup. But I don't actually think that sounds amazing. And checking it out with the bias on low now. Let's turn it down. You notice how it gets rid of that thickness. Maybe even drop it back a little. And how this sounds, that was just finger picking. Right, now if I want to add some overdrive or distortion, I played around with it, and first one that I came across that I thought was actually reasonable was the D drive for bass. And as it comes out now, it's not too bad, but it's a very MIDI sound. So let's take the mids away and punch the bass. Yeah, I wouldn't go too far with that, but let's bring it down a little lower. And because I turn the amp up to 30, I'm getting some of the amp drive there, and I don't want that for this particular sound. And lower the output, punch up the gain. If I left it at normal settings, we would have something more like this. No bass. So, cool thing about this drive pedal is the bass sort of sounds reasonably undistorted. Only the treble frequencies sound very distorted, which makes it still fill out a mix. Sounds like I'm clipping again. And after that, we could add a little reverb. I would go for room because that's way too much. Let's go back. Decay needs to be shorter, mix needs to be lower. And I don't want too much high, so I'll cut out some highs to about, say, and I'll get rid of that OD for the moment. Go back to the reverb. Let's chuck heaps of decay on. Now, if you put reverb on bass, the effect it has is muddying up the sound without making the definition there. You can add that, but I normally stay away from it and leave the reverb for guitar. So, again, off, but delay is something that you can chuck in for effect. So you can, oops, let's change the speed, tempo sync on. Let's mix it up a bit. But anytime you have a delay or something like that, which extends the sound beyond when it actually is being played, you risk phasing issues when it plays back over itself, and it can cancel itself out and make itself thinner, or it can make it too full in different parts. So I'd be careful with using delay and only use it. Some of the delays you can actually cut out the low end, like is it the ping pong or the dual delay? You can cut out the low, so I can actually make it so it only not on. It's not going to cut out any phase or cause any phase issues. I also normally shy away from using effects such as modulation or where is it? Oh, there's a lot more. I haven't really looked through this too much, so we'll have a look at just a normal chorus or a 7. Now if I put that chorus after the cab, it should allow stereo. Maybe not. Let's go for a different one, like a tri-chorus. Let's put it at the end chorus. C. Let's go for rotary. Or is my screen capture just capturing in mono? I don't know. Anyway, that's an idea of how you can build a bass tone on the MOOER G300. Now, let me know in the comments if you like it or if you would like me to build some other tones. My sort of speciality, and I wouldn't say speciality actually, I'd say my preferred tone is sort of like a John Mayer Edge of Breakup blues tone, or Slow Dancing in a Burning Room tone. And I have quite a decent one of those, and I could show you how to do that if you like, but let me know in the comments. Please like and subscribe if you like the video, and if it becomes reasonably popular or people are very interested, I would pretty much be very happy to make many more videos on how to create tones with the MOOER GE300. Thanks. Bye.